Alright, so today we are looking at even and odd trig functions. A function is even when f of x is equal to f of negative x. So they are the same. So this means if I plug in 2 or if I plug in negative 2, I will get the same thing. Odd functions are just the opposite. A function is odd when f of negative x is equal to the opposite of f of x. Alright, so these two are opposites. So if I plug 2 and negative 2 into a function, the answers I get will be opposite of each other. Alright, as far as trig functions go, there are two even trig functions, cosine and then secant. So let's think about cosine here for a second. Cosine is the x-coordinate, and we know x is positive in quadrants 1 and 4 and negative in quadrants 2 and 3. Secant is the exact same because they're just reciprocals of each other. The reciprocals have the same sign. So let's think about this then. Say I were finding the cosine of pi over 4. So off to the side here, if I draw a picture, I know pi over 4 is a 45-degree angle, so my sides are square root of 2 over 2. Cosine is the x-coordinate, so this would be equal to square root of 2 over 2. Alright, now let's see what cosine of negative pi over 4 is. So my function here would be cosine, and I'm looking at pi over 4 and negative pi over 4. Alright, so negative pi over 4 would be in the fourth quadrant. Alright, so we would have square root of 2 over 2 and negative square root of 2 over 2. Cosine is the x-coordinate, which would be this here. So I plugged in positive pi over 4 and negative pi over 4, and I got the same answer. And that would be because cosine is even. Right? If we were to do something with secant, it would be the same. Alright, let's look at the odd functions now. So the odd functions are sine and cosecant because they go together. Tangent and cotangent, they go together. So if I'm thinking about sine, I know sine is my y-coordinate, and y is positive in quadrants 1 and 2, and y is negative in quadrants 3 and 4. So let's think about an example here. So say I was looking at pi over 3. So the sine of pi over 3. Pi over 3 has a long side of square root of 3 over 2 and a short side of 1/2. We're in quadrant 1, so they're both positive. Sine is my y, so that would be square root of 3 over 2. Alright, let's think about sine of negative pi over 3 then. Alright, negative pi over 3 would be in the fourth quadrant. Sides of 1/2 and square root of 3 over 2. And since we're in the fourth quadrant, the y would be negative. So here, sine of negative pi over 3 is negative square root of 3 over 2. So I plugged in opposite angles, right? One was positive, one was negative, and I got opposite answers. Square root of 3 over 2 and negative square root of 3 over 2. And that's because sine is odd. Alright, we could do the same thing for tangent because tangent's also odd. Alright, so let's look at an example here. So I have the sine of negative t. So t is my angle. I don't know what my angle is, but I know that the sine of that angle is 3 over 8. So I have to use that to figure out the sine and the cosecant of the angle that we do not know. So let's think about what this would look like. So negative t, since it's negative, I know we go in this direction. So let's say that this is t. I could really put t anywhere. Alright, so say this is t. I want to think about what positive t would look like then. So if that's t, positive t would be the same amount, just going in the positive direction. Alright, and since we're looking at sine, let's think about what the signs would be for sine. So sine is y, so positive, positive, negative, negative. So what you want to look at, between negative t and t, these signs are opposite of each other. Alright, so if I'm looking at the sine of negative t and the sine of positive t, those are going to be opposites. It'll always be the same number here. You just have to decide if the sign is going to stay the same or change. So sine of t is equal to negative 3 over 8. Okay? Because this one was positive 3 over 8. I know the signs have to be opposite, so this one is negative 3 over 8. Let's look at cosecant of t. All right, so what you want to do with the reciprocal here, I already know the sine of t, and I know that cosecant is equal to 1 over sine, right, as long as those angles match up, and here they're both t. So this would be 1 over negative 3 over 8. So that's the same as negative 8 over 3. All right, let's look at one more example here. So we know cosine of t is 4 over 5, so that's what we're given. So I'm going to draw a picture of that. So let's say this is my angle t here. Since we're dealing with cosine, you know cosine is positive in 1 and 4, negative in 2 and 3. All right. Now this time, I want to find the cosine of pi minus t. So we have to think about that angle. So I know that pi is this entire top here, quadrants 1 and 2 together. So pi minus t means I would have to subtract however big that angle t is. So if this is about the size of angle t that we looked at in our first picture, so I know that this here would be the angle pi minus t because it's the whole top minus that t portion. So what I want to look at would be the sines. So we're dealing with cosine. The sines would be the same as in the first picture. So notice that when I was looking at just plain old t, cosine was in the quadrant, that was positive. And now that I'm looking at pi minus t, it's negative. So since those are opposite of each other, the cosine of pi minus t is going to have to be the opposite of what we were given. So negative 4 fifths. Alright? We want to kind of do the same thing here for t plus pi. So we'll get another picture. I'm still dealing with cosine, so positive and negatives won't change. Alright, this time I have t plus pi. So here's my angle t. Now I need to go pi more. Alright, I know pi is half a circle, so I know that's going to put me somewhere over here. So this whole thing would be t plus pi, or think about it as being t plus 180 degrees. Alright, so I started somewhere positive for my first picture, and I ended somewhere negative, so they're going to be opposites. So the cosine of t plus pi is the opposite of 4 fifths, or negative.